Good morning and welcome back to the Dogs and Dead List podcast. Today we have Clay No Fear Von Viol all the way from America. Welcome, Clay.
How you doing?
Man, I'm fantastic actually. As I just 5 a.m. here in Australia. I want to say thank you very much for coming on, taking the time to jump on the podcast.
No problem. Once I did a little research and listened to a couple of your other shows, I was definitely interested to come on.
Yeah, so thank you very much once again for taking the time. For our listeners out there, Clay, what we might do first of all, if that's okay, just jump into a little bit of your origin story or a little bit about you, so we can, and then we'll sort of let the conversation flow. Today, we both decided to just let the conversation flow. I don't have any specific questions. I think we're going to have a fantastic chat. But do you want to take our listeners back as far as you wish, and give us a little bit about you, about yourself?
So I guess with the dogs, I had dogs growing up, and in college, I got my first working dog. It was a crazy situation because the apartment that I was in didn't allow dogs, but having grown up with dogs and then going off to school, I really missed the dogs. At one point, what did I do? I got ferrets. That didn't work out so well. And so I really wanted to get a dog, and I decided to get a pit bull puppy. Mm-hmm. And this was a dog off of game lines, and in fact, a dead game father. Mm-hmm. And I took this puppy, and because the apartment that I had, was brand new apartments close to campus that I had worked the previous summer, after my junior year, to get into. Like, I was the second, they were just built, and I was the second, the second wave in there. And they didn't allow dogs. So had a girlfriend at the time, and she was in a sorority. So many nights, this game bred puppy and I, we were at the sorority house. So I guess after school, I got into competing because, I'm an athlete and have done various things, competing in sports all my life. Yeah. And I found a mentor for the dogs. He was a very, very well-known trainer. And initially, I guess I went out to him and I wanted to do some protection with my dog. I had done the basic obedience with what I knew. And I came out to him and I just kind of got hooked. I would go out there for a session, and then before you knew it, I was staying out there 3, 4, 5 hours. And he worked with a lot of athletes. He had a lot of celebrity clientele, and I worked, my job was working with these guys. And so we would go back and forth on that. But again, I started just hanging out there for hours and hours and hours, and I was learning. But everything I was learning for myself. I never thought about helping anybody or coaching or teaching. And so as my mentor and I got closer, he would say things like, okay, you want to go down? He was from Miami. Oh, you want to go home with me this weekend? I'm going to be doing this with the dogs. They're going to be picking out dogs, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Yeah. And I would go down there with him and got to meet some people who at the time I didn't, the names didn't mean anything, but these were people that I later realized were titans of the industry, if you will. And he showed me how to select working dogs for various purposes because, he had contracts with everybody from Border Patrol, and TSA wasn't really big at the time, but, sheriff's departments, police departments. Yep. And so I learned how to do all this. And then from there, I got the opportunity to go over to Europe multiple times, looking at different kennels and, going and selecting dogs. And I guess around the same time, I started competing in obedience and, French ring. Yeah. And those were my first dealings in dog sport. Yeah. And so I did okay. I was still very green. I did okay because I was a plugger, and the dog that I had, everybody says, oh, you're going to screw up your first working dog. And luckily I had people around me that would not let me screw this dog up. But I mean, I did enough, but I also did enough to do fairly well, with him. And then I ended up getting another female pit bull and did some things with her. And I just learned more and more and more. And the more people that I visited with in this country and overseas, more knowledge, and I would do seminars and things like that. And again, all of this was just for me. I was interested in this. It wasn't like for a career or anything, but I wanted to know how to do these things with the dogs. And so after a few years, I took time off and focused on career and life. And so I wasn't competing anymore. And then I guess in 2010, early in 2010, I decided I wanted to get back in competing with the dogs. And at that point, I noticed a lot of people that in the past that had bulldogs, they all had Malinois now, and just dog sport. Everybody was Malinois. They did obedience and protection and dock diving and all these things. And so I think the exact moment was when I was over in Thailand training Muay Thai in the mountains and hanging out. And I decided that I was going to get a pit bull, and this dog was going to be famous. Like his name was gonna ring out all around the world.
Yep.
Now, granted, I don't know if it was the altitude or the 3 hours of rigorous training and going up, the sides of mountains with 70-pound backpacks that made me think about this, or was it when we would come down at night and I'm in a hotel with no air? But for whatever reason, I got that idea in my head. And so when I got back home, I set about getting my first puppy. First puppy that I hadn't purchased a puppy since 1998. And this was 2010. Yeah. And so I finally decided on the dog that I was going to get, and he was born. And I went down to Real Deal Chocolates. That at the time they were in Nineveh, Indiana. They're in Florida now, but they were in Indiana. And I remember I flew into Indianapolis, got a rental car. I drove out there to them, and I remember when I was making my pick, I was fourth pick. And so the guy who was third pick was a couple of hours late. So if you can imagine, I'm looking at this litter and then this guy shows up, bumbling in, and you can tell he doesn't really know much about dogs, and he's trying to feed off of me. Well, which one, who do you think is this and that? Yep. And so of course I lied. And I intentionally didn't really work the puppy because I had a rag and some stuff with me. He didn't have anything. And I intentionally did not work the puppy that I wanted. And so he picked his pick and was like, ha, I got him. And I said, yeah. And I picked my puppy. And I remember before I left the Miller's living room, I just said, I'm gonna make you guys famous. Yep. And they'd never seen me, never met me, didn't know me from Adam. And I'm sure they're thinking, okay, well, yeah, you have a good day, sir. And so I left there and came back to Houston and started doing foundation with this puppy who his name ended up being the Stuff of Legends, better known as Boogeyman. Yep. I guess fast forward a little bit, Team No Fear started Team No Fear, and went on over the next few years to make this dog a household name, to where at this point, even after he's actually now been gone longer than he was here, and people still talk about him in different countries, Europe, South America. And so, I kept my promise to Real Deal Chocolates and put them on the map. And we are family, and we'll always be family. And then, of course, there was OC, who came along. He was a year younger than Boogeyman, and he in his own right has set set a bar for American Pit Bull Terrier, working American Pit Bull Terriers that is very high and has achieved everything that he's achieved, and a lot of firsts for the breed. And he's 10 and is actually still competing. Just about 3 weeks ago, I was out in Salt Lake City with him, and he took a body pound trophy at a weight pull, and still doing odor work with him and some obedience. And now I actually have his offspring. That's the next generation that they just turned a year on September 4th, which ironically was also Boogeyman's birthday. So yeah, we're just going forward from there.
Yeah, fantastic. I did actually watch that video again before we came on. From Salt Lake, some fantastic stuff happening there last weekend. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that puppy. I mean, he had literally just turned a year old, and I felt that I was a little behind where I would normally be with weight pull because I was focusing on obedience and protection and other things. But yeah, for him to go out there like that and in a improperly fitted harness at that young, and to hold his mind together like that on that track to be able to knock out a 30+ second pull on the second day of the show, that was really good for both of us. It was kind of like, all right, we're back, here we are, and it's just it's going to go nowhere but up. It can go nowhere but up from here.
Yeah, awesome. And just on that, I know that I'd like to touch on, some training and things like that a little bit later, but I tell you, at the moment, we're having a huge problem in Australia and abroad in regards to, wait times for harnesses. Do you, are you seeing that as well at the moment? And do you, love to hear your preferred, harness maker, even though that, we're seeing wait time of 6 months or more, for harnesses at the moment?
So I have since I've been competing in weight pull, there were 2 harness makers that I would recommend, and one is Brown Dog Design owners Missy Valines, and the second is Mike Apega with his SLK our ISK harnesses. So recently, Mike decided that he wasn't going to make harnesses anymore. And I think Missy is taking some time off, and she's only working with previous customers. So just to keep things transparent, the 2 people that I named have produced the harnesses that the majority of the national champion weight pullers in all the venues, I don't care, APA, UKC, IWPA, UPF, that those dogs have worn. So they are the perennial harness makers. That's who you go to if you want a harness. Now, there are other harness makers that are there. Like I just got a harness last week from Jimmy Allen. He makes a good harness. He's definitely, he's been in it long enough. I think he had some family issues, and so he's had to scale back. But yeah, he has a resume. Yeah. Outside of those people, other than one lady in Canada, CD Pitts, who also, I don't know if she's making as many shoes to make. There are a lot of people who say that they can make the harnesses, and you go on weight pull boards and you'll ask someone, oh, okay, where do I get my harness from? And they'll say, oh, Jane Doe over there. And what I tell anybody, whether it's in dogs or just in life, check resumes. And if you told me that Jane Doe is a harness maker, the first thing, or is a great harness maker, the first thing, if I don't know Jane Doe, the first thing I'm going to ask is, well, how many national champions have you made harnesses for? And if she can't tell me several, then I'm not saying that you have a bad product, but what are the odds that the people who are in the pinnacle of the sport at the top of the game are using you? Because, and I'm not going to call this person's name, the first harness that I ever bought, the person told me that I needed to take measurements of the dog and send the measurements in, as opposed to, say, Mike and Missy, who typically will just look at a picture of the dog, you tell them how much the dog weighs, and 9.9 times out of 10, they send you the correct harness. This person told me, I need you to take multiple measurements. And so that was a little worrisome for me. So I said, well, how about I do this? I'm going to get my tape measure and I'm going to have somebody video me taking the measurements. And I'm going to send you the video first. And you can tell me if that's correct.
Yep.
Okay, that sounds great. So that's what I did. I had somebody video me taking the measurements. I sent the video to her. She said, that's perfect. Of course, she sends me a harness that doesn't fit. So at the time, one of my mentors in Oklahoma, who was, years of experience, he looked at the harness. He gets on the phone with her. He describes what needs to be done. Mm-hmm. Okay, I get it. She sends me another incorrect harness.
Yeah.
So finally, I just, I found somebody who was dumber and newer than me in weight pull.
Yep.
And I sold him the harness. Even to the point where it had my dog's name on it. And that was when, after that, I said, okay, never again.
Yep.
And so, yeah, there are a lot of harness makers that, people will see weight pull and, oh, well, I know how to sew, so I can do that. No.
Yep.
If you don't know how it's supposed to fit, if you don't understand weight pull, if you don't understand the displacement of how the neck roll and the side straps are supposed to fit on the dog, no, I don't care. You could be the best seamstress or tailor in the world, but you're not going to be able to make an effective weight pull harness. So to answer your question, mm-hmm. I could see how that would be a problem, but I guess if you've got the type of audience over there that really needs these, mm-hmm. I would get with maybe one person, two people, and I don't know, maybe set up a type of distribution network so that you could get a better turnaround.
Yeah, for sure.
Because the relationship that I had with with Missy and Mike was, okay, hey, it's Team No Fear. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're likely to go win a nationals here. Can you get this harness done? And yeah, we have it in a week or two, as opposed to I've sent many people to order and they tell me 3-4 months later, yeah, haven't got the harness. So I don't know about that, but yeah, I would think just try to make a business arrangement with the people.
Yeah, for sure. And so I've been using Jimmy Allen. I've got about six of his harnesses here, but I've had them now for over nearly 3 years. So for me personally, I'm all set. We're just for people that are that are new and coming through. That's probably their biggest hurdle right now is where do I go? I seen a harness last week that I could pull apart with my hands. The stitching was just not up to scratch. But that's just a quick question on where you get your harnesses, and as you said, for people out there listening, do some research. Yeah, it's the best thing you can do for yourself. So I wanted to I suppose transition a little bit. I know that we've just talked about harnesses probably a little bit ahead of schedule, but I wanted to talk about your philosophy on training. Obviously there's a number of disciplines in regards to your pit bull shows, and I just wanted to get your take on philosophy, nutrition. If you're up for it, a little bit of how you program and how you train specific disciplines, if that's cool.
So I guess I think about the dogs and their training and their nutrition a lot, or much of the same way that I look at what I do for myself. Mm-hmm. First of all, excellent nutrition is key. I mean, I've seen some dogs that were multi-time national champions that ate crap, but I would prefer to start off with a good nutritional regimen, just like for myself. Are you going to go to Whole Foods or are you going to go to McDonald's? Mm-hmm. And in fact, Whole Foods is probably a bad example because they put some stuff in there, but you understand what I'm saying. Are you going to go with quality versus nonsense? Mm-hmm. And then from there, I guess when it comes to conditioning, I'm a little different than some, and I wait until my puppies are not such puppies to really start with any kind of conditioning. Like my 1-year-old right now, when I had his hips done back in July, I asked them to do an extra x-ray and let me know if his growth plates were still open. And when they said they were, I said, okay. So I'm not going to be going balls to the wall on anything that might be weight bearing or too much exercise, because I want to give him the time to get all of that together. And so I was very sparing with like you probably seen the wall climb videos. Like literally he went to that show and he had been on the wall maybe a total of 5 times. And each time I would do, 4 or 5 reps. Again, nothing crazy. Yeah. Now, once he's older, then the nutrition and the conditioning really comes into play, because for me, okay, let's say I'm working on obedience or a protection sport. Like right now, okay, we got APBT and PSA. Mm-hmm. So I want my dog to be in stellar condition, because, one thing that people would say about dogs from Team No Fear, when we were really at the height of what we were doing, yeah, I mean, they come out and they were faster, stronger, more endurance, because typically, okay, I would go to, let's say, a protection competition and all the dogs look nice, but I have a dog that's hitting 35, 36 miles an hour and leveling a decoy, destroying a decoy. Mm-hmm. Oh, wow, he hits so hard. Well, yeah, that's, part of that is that weight pull that you guys, joke about and say that you don't do. And yeah, I'm on the treadmill and we're running with the parachute. So yeah, I always want them to be physically ready. Like OC, even at 10 years old, the dog's cardiovascular reserves have just always been phenomenal to me. How he could just go out, put him up, go out, put him up. So all of that is stuff that I'm going to work on. As far as training, being a bulldog person it's a thankless job at times. Bulldog people are a special ilk. I love my bulldog folks, but oftentimes we're different than, say, Malinois people. Big tendency in the bulldog community is to put too much pressure on dogs way too early, simply because we see that, oh, okay, well, the dog wants to do the work. All right. When I was 16 and boxing or doing Taekwondo, I would spar with guys who were in their 30s, my size, which is about the same size that I am now. But those guys, if they had given me their hardest punches or their hardest kicks, I probably wouldn't have come back. Mm-hmm. They understood you're young, you build. You build the dog up. You understand thresholds. You don't just go in there and just balls to the wall, because you have so many of these dogs that are getting washed out. And it's not the dog's fault. It's owners and handlers. Me, I'm going to look at the dog that's in front of me and I'm going to work that particular dog. I'm old school to the point where I look at a dog that's 8 weeks old, a puppy that's 8 weeks old, excuse me, and what I see conformationally, structure-wise, and what I see temperament and drive-wise, I know for sure that if I don't screw that dog up at 2 years old, that's exactly what I'm going to have. Mm-hmm. So I don't really do well with people who take a puppy and they're posting videos all over Facebook and Instagram. Oh yeah, this dog is going to be this and this dog is going to be that. And the dog's 6 months old. Oh yeah, he's doing great. A year old. Oh man, this dog is going to be so tough. And then, oh yeah, he had nerve issues. Mm-hmm. No, you had training issues. Mm-hmm. You had training issues, because nerve issues come out when you're back looking at that puppy at 8 weeks old. Mm. So yeah, I'm not going to rush a dog. If you go, oh well, you go slow with your dogs. No, I go at the speed that the dog needs me to go at. I'm not trying to go too fast. I'm not trying to go too slow. I'm able to look at the dog. I'll tell you, dogs that, OC and Boogeyman, they're people who would have washed them out just because, oh, well, at this age, the dog didn't do this. Okay, but I was able to read that and know that was just a matter of the dog becoming more mature.
Yes.
Because with OC, that was the argument. These guys would, oh, well, which is the best pit bull? And okay, and what discipline? Because this dog competes in 10 venues. And to my knowledge, when he was in his prime, there were only a couple of other really, I guess you want to call them serious working dogs in the breed. And they only did one thing. And he did it better than they did.
Yeah.
So it wasn't even, and I mean, I say that now because he's retired. I used to just kind of ignore it, but it's not even a question.
Yep.
It's not even a question, but there were so many people who looked at me, oh, well, you didn't give him his first bite until he was 18 months old. So, okay, at 10 years old, if he's still doing bite work and being successful at it, and your dog was washed or was retired 5 years ago, who won? Mm-hmm. End of the year, I'm always going to want longevity, whether it's obedience or protection or, yeah, like him going up to that show in Salt Lake. That's a 10-year-old dog stepping on that track and taking a body pound. Mm-hmm. That speaks volumes to me about my preparation and my thought process. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's always about training the dog that's in front of you and not setting the dog up for failure, because all of us have that ego side where, okay, we're working the dog, he's doing great. And well, let me give just a little bit more. Oh shit, I set him back for a second. Okay, let me put him up. So yeah, you've got to really, you've got to know what you're doing in that respect. And that's why I'm excited now, because there are a lot of young bulldogs out there, and by young, under 3, under 2, a lot of up and coming young dogs. And so, next year is going to be the year. Yeah. The offspring. Yeah. This is the point where the offspring of the dogs that were in the public eye for the last 4 or 5 years, the offspring are now coming out, and they're going to compete against each other. And I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, for sure.
Exciting times. I often hear, exactly what you're saying. Let's just do one more, just one more, and then it's like, you've just stuffed everything, mate.
Right. And like I said, especially with guys, yeah, it's that ego where I've learned, you know what? Let me not try to just get every single thing out of this puppy in one session, because guess what? Mm-hmm. I can get a few reps, put him up, and I'm gonna bring him back out later that evening. Yep. Or even later that evening for a third session. But everything needs to count, and it needs to be good. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of people will look at me, oh, well, you train differently. You don't start the dogs on this until they're this age. No, I didn't necessarily say that I don't start the dogs on certain things until they're that age. But the work that they're going to get, if I'm going to start them at a certain age, is going to be good work. Mm-hmm. And good work is oftentimes difficult to find. And good help is difficult to find.
Yeah, for sure.
So I would rather wait, if I have to, than to rush it and put the dog in front of somebody who, again, doesn't have a resume and ruin the dog. Yeah, I'll wait.
Yeah, for sure. So I just wanted to just double back a little bit back to nutrition for a moment and supplements. Are you a raw sort of feeder, or you prefer your kibble or a bit of combination? What's your preferred on that?
I started feeding raw, I guess it was 97, 98. We had a Rottweiler, and my family did, and she was 12. Mm-hmm. And we took her to the vet. Her coat looked like crap. Did the x-rays, bad arthritis. She wasn't moving around so well. And he said, try this raw diet. So of course we're looking at him funny, and what do you mean? Dogs can't eat chicken. The bones will kill them, blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. But this was our dog, and we trusted him, because at that point I remember mid 90s, Eukanuba and Science Diet, those were the best, to the point where we drove about 240 miles to Atlanta because we didn't have pets. I don't think PetSmart came until I was off in college, but yeah, we would drive up to PetSmart and buy bags of this stuff that was the best to feed to the dogs. And, I know now that it was crap. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we started her on the raw, and a year later, mind you, now this is a 13-year-old Rottweiler, that's huge for a Rottweiler. Brought her back. The arthritis the inflammation had subsided substantially. Her coat was back to looking good with the addition of the raw food and the oils and everything from the fish. And she actually lived another year before we put her down. So around that time, I guess I had my first litter of bulldog puppies, and they started on raw, and they went on raw from cradle to grave. And I've had various influences over the years that have helped me with raw. And even now I'm still reading and trying things and consulting, because for different sports in different venues, the way that you're going to feed that dog, the way that you're going to load that dog on the raw is different. But it's definitely, yeah, overall, like that was one of the ways when I first got involved with MVP and X Dog, was based on, you know, some of those nutritional goals.
Yeah. And I'm currently, you know, working on some stuff at the moment in regards to that as well, and you know, consulting. And you may have seen a few people pop up on the podcast around you know, nutrient timing for dogs. You know, at one point I cut out carbs, and then I've introduced carbs. You know, and also, you know, after the dogs have had a, you know, an intense session, looking at I call it a recovery drink with some combination of carbs, fats. You know, just to help with that recovery as well. So it's, at this point in time, you know, it's all experimental for me on my dogs, but really looking to start that conversation off with a number of people around that as well. It's a, you know, it's obviously, it's not something that can just have a blanket approach for every dog, but you know, I'm certainly seeing some improvements in recovery, and, you know, those energy stores rebooted, ready to go. You know, and when you're competing on a, let's just say on a weekend, you know, and you're doing wall climb, you're doing weight pull, you're doing, you know, potential mill races, etc., your dog needs to be able to recover and have those energy stores replenished, ready to go at maximum power again, you know, over a short period of time. So yeah, at this stage, it's all sort of experiment. But you doing, you know, similar things, or you have philosophies around that?
Well, that's the thing. I can only take it so far with what I would do versus what I'm going to do with the dog, because obviously dogs metabolize everything, whether medicine, food, a lot quicker than we do. And it's a trial and error thing, because over the years I found that different things work. So, for example, if the dog goes to a weight pull and the weight pull is 2 days, okay, you've got to really know, you've got to understand the energy expenditure on day one so that you can prepare for day two. For example, if you're in an organization and you come out on day one and there's limited number of dogs, or either your dog is that good to where the dog only makes 3 or 4 pulls and wins. Okay, so the dog literally spent, if he made 4 pulls, we're going to say the dog spent probably under 5 minutes on the track working out. So when I go home that night, it's more about, okay, you know, I'll stretch the dog, you know, maybe massage the dog, but I'm not over worried about refueling for tomorrow, because this is a dog. And that was one of the things that made me proud about that Salt Lake pull that you mentioned. This was a dog that had been practicing and doing 30 reps at a time. So when he got out there on the day of that pull, and he made some good pulls and some hard pulls, he was never breathing hard because his conditioning was in order. But back to what I was saying, yeah, if the dog only made 4 pulls, I'm not so worried about the nutrition that night. I'm going to feed him, I'm going to water him, not too heavy, give him enough to where he's able to metabolize, and he's not going to be working tomorrow on a full stomach, and go about my business and hopefully win the show the next day. Now, if I'm in a situation where, let's say I'm doing APPDA or PSA or French ring sport, and I'm going back-to-back days, okay, well, we're talking about a longer routine here. We're talking about being out in the sun, we're doing obedience, we're doing our protection or our agility, whatever the case may be. Then I've got to make sure, okay, is the dog well hydrated? Is the dog going to have enough in the tank for tomorrow? Definitely go and make sure to work out those potentially sore muscles. and getting ready for the next day. So yeah, when you have something that's more rigorous, that's where your planning comes into play. As far as, I guess, the carbs, fat, protein, there are different schools of thought, but it's been my experience. I don't do, when I first started raw, I did barf, bones and raw food, and I'd had the vegetables. And because I had a juicer, I would take the carrots and the celery that I used, and I would give the husks to the dogs, for their vegetables. But then I moved over to the prey model raw because I just didn't see that type of difference in their performance with the veggies. And I mean, I still have friends who will, I wanted to put some berries and this and that. And okay, and that's fine. But I typically I do limited, very, very limited on that. And yeah, depending on in Texas, because it's hot a lot, we have 100+ degree days that, there may be a trial and you've got to be out there for a while. I want to coordinate the dog's nutrition so that he's able to stand up to those elements, as well as, of course, performing and doing what he has to do. But it can be there's a fine line between doing it just right and going overboard, because when you got 100 degrees, the last thing that you want to do is have a dog who his stomach is too full, but you've got to make sure that he is on something that's nutrient dense so that he will be able to perform to the best of his abilities. And that's where you often find going back and forth between, okay, well, more of a chicken, more of a beef, and then you've got to think about, all right, well, which is going to sit there longer, which takes longer to break down. And of course, if you want to throw the kibble argument in, then that goes back to the whole point. All right, I can give my dog a couple of scoops of kibble and boom, it's coming right out, as opposed to I'm feeding the dog raw. All right, he might not poop for a day. It's going to take much longer to digest. And so when people tell me, well, I'm feeding them raw in the morning and kibble at night, I just have to ask, well, why are you mixing the two? There's really, there's no science that stands behind that says that mixing those two, or half and half, is doing anything for the dog.
But
it's definitely a lot of trial and error, and it helps when you have like-minded people that are going back and forth and doing the same type of things, because I'm an empirical type of guy, and if I've only got 3 dogs that I'm competing with, I'd like to hear from 10, 20, 30, 50 other people and what's working for you guys, so that we can all have a sense of best practices.
Yeah, for sure. And that's, and that's one of my, one of my goals to, for Dogs and Deadlifts in the podcast is to get that education out there. People can plug in, into a podcast and listen to us have a chat about this and go, oh yeah, let's change our potentially change our thought process and start, incorporating some other stuff, or start collaborating. And, because a lot of people out there, they just don't know, to be honest. They just don't know. And, by increasing education, we're all going to be in a better position.
No, I agree.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk about, your ex, I know that we talked about Team X Dog. I'd love to hear about how that sort of came about, and the process that, how you're incorporating. You mentioned the parachutes earlier, but, how you're incorporating that into your programs as well.
So back in 2012, I was at a national weight pro, or it was an ABKC nationals, and they had a weight pro nationals up in Dallas. And that's where I met Stan Smith, and Stan approached me. He was very impressed with Boogeyman, and we talked, and later Boogeyman became the first X-Dog sponsored athlete. And he had his picture on a cover, or not a cover, on a package of one of their supplements. And it was just the beginning of a really good relationship, because so many of our goals we're just very, very like-minded. A lot of people think about X-Dog and just, the vest and the equipment, but going from MVP and transitioning to X-Dog, Stan's goal has always been combating the canine obesity epidemic, because a lot of overweight dogs out there and a lot of unhealthy dogs out there.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're doing with our dogs and with the products that are made is just providing a platform for even average pet owners to, okay, get your dogs in shape and get your dogs active, because it's almost like, I guess, if you see somebody who's a bodybuilder, like I don't, I work out and I like to stay in shape, but you'll never see me going across the stage. And I mean, God love anybody who does, and I don't knock it, but you'll just never see me do that.
That's right.
But at the same time, sure, there's some things versus nutritionally and workout wise that I'm going to take from, somebody who's a professional bodybuilder. Mm-hmm. And so it's the same thing when you have a pet owner with a dog who's 30 pounds overweight, and we post in one of our groups, okay, well, look at OC with the 3 X-Dog parachutes on, going down the field, et cetera, and we're using this particular supplement, and look at the dog when we're working out for 2 or 3 months with the vest versus how the dog looked before. You're reaching so many people because, I mean, that's easy. Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Well, my dog could do that. Well, let me get one of those vests. And yeah, I mean, the results that you see are remarkable, because sometimes, just like with a person, it's the most simple change in your diet or the most simple change in your workout regimen or routine that produces great results. Mm-hmm. And I've been really fortunate to have been a part of that team going on. Yeah, I guess it'll be 10 years next year, because as X-Dog has grown, Stan and I have a relationship where, yeah, Stan comes in town and he doesn't want to stay at an Airbnb, he can stay at the house. I mean, we have a relationship like that where if he calls and, man, I'm thinking about a product and I'm going to send you one, let me know what you think. I'll get the product. Yeah, Stan, crap. But most of the times, yes, Stan, this is great. Yeah, that's how it goes. Yeah, but he's allowed us to do this market research for him, while at the same time, yeah, I mean, we're taking our dogs to another level, because going back, you were asking about the parachutes. Mm-hmm. So you had the version 1 of the parachutes, and then version 2 came out, and we went up there actually with the puppies, in fact, some months back, and we made videos, and you can see how the version 2 of the parachutes, you can literally watch in the video with the bungee effect when the dog hits that line, mm-hmm. or when the dog hits that spot where the parachute is fully open and that bungee comes back, you see that the dog there's more drag, and the dog is having to, actually push through it mm-hmm. to get down and, finish the run. Yep. And so it's little things like that, again, average pet person, they may or may not notice it, but for someone who's competing, and if I want to do lure course or whatever I'm participating in, and I need that fast dog, mm-hmm. or I need that strong dog going down the field and leveling the decoy, or I need that dog that's going to power through the weave poles on the agility course. Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are the types of tools that I want. And I mean, I can't say enough about the X-Dog vest, because I guess it's one of those things that I've been pretty quiet when it comes to the vest, with regards to some of the comments that I'll see people who basically are online and they'll hate on the products. Oh, it doesn't do this, doesn't do that, doesn't allow flexibility. And I've enjoyed every moment of the vest, because they've come so far. Now with the current version, it's light years ahead of the original version. I mean, the straps are better. You've got heating and cooling elements. And again, down in Texas, yeah, keeping cool is crucial. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it just continues. We continue to get better and better. And you see more people that are active. You see more people that are trying to do more with their dogs, because again, anybody can do it,
Yeah, for sure.
And he continues to be committed to that goal of fighting canine obesity, while at the same time, he is going to keep putting out products that help prepare people that want to compete on a high level. Again, irrespective of the discipline, mm-hmm. yeah, we'll be ready.
For sure. And just as a disclaimer, I've got, I have an X-Dog vest. It's probably over 2 years old now, roughly, I had it for my bully dog. I don't have a current one for any of my dogs at the moment, but I often compare it to, I'm not sure, I compare it to sort of CrossFit. Do you remember when CrossFit came out? And it was initially a bit underground, and and then people just started hating on it. Going to get injured, it's going to do this, it's going to do that, and look at it today. It's flourishing, and the goal was to get people out moving,
Yeah.
looking at nutrition, looking at changing their mindset around fitness. So that's
Sure.
how I often compare it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's a pretty similar, that's a good analogy. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So
And I mean, similar to CrossFit, I will say, because I did CrossFit at one point,
mhm,
the programming has got to be on point.
yes, like I agree.
Because if you go in and on Monday, okay, we're going to do 1,000 deadlifts.
Hmm.
And then, okay, on Tuesday, I'm thinking, okay, 1,000 bench presses today. Tuesday, we're going to do 1,000 lunges. No, not after the 1,000 deadlifts from Monday. But
That's
yeah, same
exactly
thing
right.
with the products that X-Dog puts out. You have
Mhm.
to program correctly and responsibly.
Yeah, for sure. And I agree with. I moved away from the CrossFit model, myself, because my central nervous system and it just shut down after intense workouts Monday to Friday. It was just too much for me personally. So I did mention that on another podcast, but it was I've changed my programming and my philosophy around my personal training and my dog's training quite a lot actually. I'm a
Okay.
big fan of Joel Jamieson, 8 weeks out. Are you familiar with Joel Jamieson?
You said Joel?
Jamieson, 8weeksout.com.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, I love his programming style, and for me, this now we've swapped from dogs to humans for the moment, but he's talking about HRV and really his philosophy on recovery driven training compared to the high intensity stuff all the time is I really like his what he talks about.
Yeah, and I think for dog owners,
Mhm.
some people that I know, they've never competed, never been on a field a day in their lives,
Mhm.
and their dogs might not even have but average or below average basic obedience. But those same people will tell me stories about, yeah, we were hiking the other day and we did 12 miles.
Mm.
There's something to be said about that, because when you're looking at their dogs and you're seeing the type of physical condition that they're in, okay, yeah, 12 miles. And I say 12 miles because in the dog world in Europe, the Karung, it's a 12-mile run that the dog would have to do. But you can take a lot from people on various levels, because if you've got a dog that is just living out in the country and swims every day and runs behind the ATV every day while you're working the property, that dog is going to be in shape. So you can take a lot of that, what may seem very simple, and transition that to competing in your sports now. Because I think a lot of people don't really, and these can be high level competitors, I don't think that they really take the conditioning of the dogs as seriously as they could. And for me, first and foremost, I want the dog to be in the best physical shape possible. And nutritionally, I want them to be loaded as well as they can be going out on that field, because it's going to make a difference. Because if it comes down to it, and you've trained your dog to perfection, I've trained my dog to perfection, we're both at the top of our game, the dogs are genetically comparable, and we do similar routines, in the end, it may come down to, who's in better shape, who's in better condition. That last entry that when we sent the dog down the field, did he have the juice to keep going, to go in as hard, or was he tired, and did he gather at the end before he got on the bike? So it's key.
For sure. Look, I'm just going to sort of wrap things up a little bit now. What's in store for Clay and Team No Fear over the next winter, and obviously over there coming up? What's sort of on the program?
Like I said, right now I'm just focused on the young dogs, because that's the next generation. And for me, having a dog that has over 100 titles and certificates on him, now having an offspring off that dog, it puts a bit of a target on me, because the question, of course, is, all right, you've done it a couple of times now. Can you do it again?
Mm-hmm.
And that's that's the goal.
Fantastic.
And I guess COVID kind of messed up some things for a couple of my team members, because basically in 2020 and realistically the first quarter or so of 2021, things were just so off, and shows had been canceled, and it kind of messed up some things. So got to do some regrouping in that respect. But the focus for me is on the offspring, and just trying to do what I did with the father and do more with the with offspring, even more, just to show the versatility and continue to put out good dogs.
Yeah, fantastic. So if anyone wanted to, they've enjoyed this, chat that we've had, and they wanted to reach out to you, where would they find you? What's sort of socials, website, anything like that?
Facebook, it would be Clay No Fear, and also Instagram, Clay No Fear 96, or on Instagram, Team No Fear Working APBT. We also have a YouTube channel, but we haven't really put much content on there in the last few years. So the Instagram, and then there's also a Facebook fan page, Team No Fear Working APBT.
Yeah, awesome. All righty, Clay, look, once again, thank you very much for taking the time to come on the Dogs and Dead List podcast. Guys, if you like what you've heard today, please feel free to share, subscribe to the podcast, and let us know what your thoughts. Once again, Clay, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.